Right. Good morning, students. It is very good time meet with you on online section. I welcome grade 8 students. Learn social. What you are going to learn today? Yes, you are going to learn in social. Already you have learned in previous some chapters. I hope you have learned especially in geography 3 chapters. The 3 chapters are one is first chapter about resource. What are the resource things needed of human being? Which are the more resource needed the human being? You learn, and we have learned second chapter also especially about land, soil, water, natural vegetation, and wildlife. Isn't it or not? Yes, it is. Then we have learned third chapter also in geography. That is nothing but minerals and power resource. And not only that, we have learned in political also. Here also we have learned 3 chapters especially. Already learned in political? Yes, Indian Constitution, which is more important to us who are living in India for them. And you learn second chapter understanding secularism. What did you learn? Understanding secularism. Not only that, we have learned third chapter also in political science about why do we need a parliament? Why do we need a parliament? Did you learn these 3 chapters or not? Yes, very good. You have learned. Not only that, in geography 3 chapters and political 3 chapters, even you have learned history 3 chapters. In history, what did you learn? Yes, I hope you have learned first chapter about how, when, and where. Is it or not? What is the first chapter there? How, when, and where. And you have learned second chapter also in history. It is from trade to territory. From trading to territory. The British government came to India for the trading. The Britishers came for to India trade, but finally they have occupied our India and they started ruling. There is nothing but territory. That also we have learned, and we have learned third chapter in history, ruling the countryside. What did you learn in third chapter? Ruling the countryside. I hope these 3 chapters from the history have learned. From geography also you have learned from these chapters, as well as you have learned from political also 3 chapters. Today also you are going to learn one more chapter. What you are going to learn? Yes, exactly. You are going to learn about when people rebel. 1857 and after. It is the history. One more chapter. It is 5th chapter. Why, son? You are not teaching 4th chapter. Maybe you have doubt. Yes, I hope. Because the 4th chapter about tribals, bhikkhus, and vision of the golden age. This is 4th chapter. Tribals, bhikkhus, and Vision of Golden Age. This chapter is deleted from the NCRT. This chapter is deleted by NCRT. So, no need to learn. Okay, whenever you need at the time, I will recall that also coming later. Okay, we focus on the syllabus. Okay, right. What you are going to learn is exactly you are going to learn about when people rebel. Okay, now write first exam heading introduction. Introduction. Right, students. About introduction, you may learn now. Really, when did people rebel in our India? All the country citizens who are there in our India, when did they started rebel? Rebel, which is known as we can say revolt. What we can say? Rebel. Revolt. Right. Now, in this introduction part, just we recall about when did people started rebel. Yes, exactly. They started 1857. Why did they start it? Is there any reason for starting the rebel? What is the meaning of the rebel? Rebel means against or opposite. Why they will start or they have started? Because they had faced several problems from the government at the time in 1857. Which government was there? Yes, exactly. British government was there. Through the British government, all over the country faced many problems. Which problem did they face? Listen, they had faced economic problems, social problems, political problems. They faced immediately some problems and military problems. These all are the happening of the people rebel causes. What are the causes? Especially we may see here 5 causes of rebel. Right, what are the 5 causes of the revolt or rebel? The 5 causes. One is economic causes and social causes and political causes and military causes and immediately causes. Like these 5 causes, women know happening the revolt. Which revolt happening? Yes, very good. 1857 rebel started by all over Indians in 1857. Why did they face these all things? Because in, you may observe, 1757 they have occupied Bengal. What did they occupy? They had occupied 1857 Bengal. Battle of Plassey. At the time, Siraj-ud-Dowla was defeated by the Britishers. The Bengal was captured by the Britishers. Who did capture the Bengal? Yes, exactly. You may see here. Britishers have captured Bengal. From 1757 to 1857, look here, my students. Here you observe Bengal. This whole place was occupied by the Britishers. When did they occupy? Yes, 1757. Through Battle of Plassey. In the Battle of Plassey, the Siraj-ud-Dowla was defeated by the Britishers. So he lost his Nawab at the time when the Britishers started. And from 1757 onwards, they started trying to occupy remaining areas, Madras, Bombay, and remaining areas, Rajput areas, which is there all over India. They had occupied. Right, students. It is the main situation is happening in India. You already have learned previously in history how, when, and where. First chapter, how did traders will come to India? When European countries came to India, na? Yes. When did they come? Also learn. Where did they come? Also you have learned. Okay. I hope. And the second chapter also, they started here trading. Through the trading, they occupied like this area. And they started territory, means ruling they had started. And you learn ruling the countryside about what? Okay, now you are going to. Okay, through their ruling, what did happen? People may not satisfied through their rule because they had implemented different laws and policies. Through that, they faced several problems. Okay, and we will see. Now we have learned about introduction of the when people rebel 1857. Let you see one more heading. Right, student. Next heading about policies and people. Policies and people. Then we will see here what policies were started by the Britishers. Which policies were started by the Britishers? Listen carefully. Some of the policies are introduced by the Britishers. That's why people faced several problems. These policies affected on the people. These affected on the people. That's why the policies enforced by the East India Company. The policies are enforced by the East India Company. The East India Company had different efforts on different people of the society. They had implemented different policies entirely on different people. Even they had high authorities people also. Which policies were made by the Britishers? That policies must have to follow everyone. So here many members are unwilling to follow. These all are very affected on the, especially you may see here on the kings. It is affected on the queens. It is affected on the peasants. It is affected on the landlords. It's affected on the tribals. It is affected on the soldiers. This policies especially affected on the kings, queens, peasants, landlords, tribals, and soldiers. So these all are unable to get follow. Why? Because we are all the Indians. Why we need to follow according the company rules? Why we need to follow Britishers policies? That's why kings, queens, peasants, landlords, tribals, and soldiers all were affected in different ways by the policies made by the Britishers. Different policies were made by the Britishers. That's why this all faced some problems. Who did face problems? Yes, kings, queens, peasants, landlords, tribals, and soldiers. Not only that, students, people distorted their policies and actions in various ways. What people ways are their thoughts they have implemented. That's why here you may observe it is also one of the cause of revolt 1857. For the starting rebel or revolt 1857, this all people were faced several problems by the Britishers. Why? Because Britishers want to occupy all over India. They have tried, especially from 1757 to 1857. Anyway, they have occupied it in 1857, everything. But their implementations, their laws, their policies are very crucially, very critically upon our Indians. That's why our all Indians will face several problems. Okay, students, they faced several problems. That is the about policies and the people. Okay, students, now watch about revolt of 1857 or people rebel 1857. One small video I kept for you. Watch and enjoy.
The East India Company, basically a trading company established itself as a political power in India in the year 1772. Its motto was to derive benefits out of Indian territories rather than improving the lives of the people. The British introduced many expansionist and unjust policies to fulfill their intention of becoming a political power in India. The cumulative effect of these policies, exploitation, and administrative innovations over the years adversely affected the positions of all. The rulers, sepoys, zamindars, peasants, artisans, pandits, Maulvis, etc. were a few among them who were adversely affected. The colonial policies of the East India Company destroyed the traditional economic fabric of the Indian society. The highly unpopular revenue settlements, like the permanent settlement, Mahalwari, Rayatwari, etc., left the peasants impoverished due to heavy taxation. The annexation of Indian states by the company cut off the major source of patronage to the artisans and handicraftsmen, making their lives more miserable. Adding to the misery, British policies also discouraged Indian handicrafts and promoted British goods. Zamindars, the traditional landed aristocrats, often saw their land rights forfeited, resulting into a loss of status for them in the villages. The East India Company's undue interference in the administration of princely states through the policies like subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse caused discontentment not only amongst the rulers but also the people. The British never mixed with the Indian people and treated even the upper class Indians with contempt. Such a racist attitude did not go well with educated Indians. They were now aware of the concepts like equality, liberty, and fraternity introduced to them by the Western education. The activities of Christian missionaries were looked upon with suspicion by Indians. The attempts at socio-religious reforms by the British were seen as interference in the social and religious domains of Indian society. The conditions of service in the company's army increasingly came into conflict with the religious beliefs of the sepoys. To a religious Hindu of that time, crossing the sea meant loss of caste. The General Service Enlistment Act, passed in 1856, made it compulsory for an Indian sepoy to serve overseas if required by the government. The Indian sepoys were also unhappy about their emoluments compared to their British counterparts. An Indian sepoy was made to feel a subordinate at every step and was racially discriminated in matters of promotions and privileges. The annexation of Awadh, which was home to many of the sepoys, further inflamed their feelings. These were the reasons which caused great resentment among the sepoys. However, the flashpoint was reached when the soldiers were asked to bite off the paper cartridges for the newly introduced Enfield rifles, which were reportedly greased with beef and pig fat. This was against the religious beliefs of Hindu and Muslim sepoys. In February 1857, the sepoys of 19th Native Infantry at Berhampur refused to use the newly introduced Enfield rifles and broke out in mutiny. The infantry was disbanded in March 1857. On March 29, 1857, the Indian sepoys at Barakpur refused to use the greased cartridges. They were forced to bite the cartridges and load the rifles on a routine drill. Mangal Pandey, a young sepoy of the regiment gets enraged and attacks his officers. He was later overpowered by the European soldiers of the regiment. The Indian sepoys get inspired by Mangal's act and tension grips in the entire regiment. Mangal Pandey shoots himself to avoid humiliating trial at the army court. However, he survives and is put on trial. He was subsequently hanged. On 9th May 1857, 85 sepoys at Meerut cantonment were stripped of their uniform and sentenced to 10 years of rigorous imprisonment for defying the orders on the issue of greased cartridges. On the next day, the other sepoys mutinied and released their fellow inmates. These sepoys marched towards Delhi and reached Red Fort in the early hours of 11th May. They persuaded Bahadur Shah II, the Mughal emperor, to become the leader of the revolt and proclaimed him as Shahenshah-e-Hindustan. The rebels captured the city of Delhi from the British. Bahadur Shah wrote letters to all the chiefs and rulers of India, urging them to organize a confederacy of the Indian states to fight and replace the British regime. Storm centers of the revolt. At Delhi, the Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah was only a symbolic leader, and the real power was exercised by General Bakht Khan. At Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib and his general Tantia Tope. The revolt at Lucknow was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal. Maulvi Ahmadullah of Faiziabad also organized rebellions and fought the British. Khan Bahadur Khan, a descendant of the last independent Rohilla leader, was a British pensioner at Bareilly. The revolt provided him an opportunity to claim his ruling rights over his territory. The revolt at Arha was led by Kuvar Singh, the Zamindar of Jagadishpur. Rani Lakshmi Bai offered a stiff resistance to the British at Jhansi, but she was finally defeated at Gwalior. The British captured Delhi on 20th September 1857. Bahadur Shah was taken as a prisoner and the royal princes were captured and shot dead. One by one, the great leaders of the revolt fell. The revolt was brutally suppressed, and by the end of 1859, the British authority over India was fully re-established. Even though the revolt of 1857 failed to overthrow the British rule, it helped in developing a nationalistic spirit and generated a feeling of oneness among the people of the country, which inspired the subsequent stages of freedom struggle.